Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this particular video, we are going to discuss about the possibility that India has to deal with in the future since elections have been announced by the interim government of Bangladesh. It will take place next year in the month of April. So how or why India must reach out to those it long ignored, because if you look at the Indo-Bangladesh relationship, you see that for many decades, because Sheikh Hasina has been in power in Bangladesh, India has to deal with her and her government only. But now in the month of August 2024, we have seen ouster of Sheikh Hasina after a large-scale revolution staged by protesters largely coming from the universities all across Bangladesh. Now her government is gone, and also we know that Awami League, her party has been disbanded, her party has been made illegal in Bangladesh. That means they cannot contest in elections. So her return to power in Bangladesh, at least in short to medium term, seems almost impossible. So Bangladesh, as you can see, is a very important neighbor, both from geographical perspective as well as also from the internal security challenges point of India. So obviously, India cannot wait for a favorable government or pro-India government to come into power. It has to deal with and engage with whoever forms new government next year as such. And in that direction, efforts should be made right from the start, right from the beginning, and right now is the good time for that. Now, to give you the brief context of this particular entire discussion and issue we are talking about, if you look at the India's map, we can see we are having a huge land border of more than 15,000 kilometers. Unfortunately, we are from most sides surrounded by rivals, adversaries, or enemies as such. For example, Pakistan, we just have concluded a war with Pakistan, and always we have faced a threat of cross-border terrorism by this particular region. Second, with China, with which we share second longest border, we also have a lot of difficulties and challenges, and border disputes have been going on almost from last 50-60 years. Similarly, talk about Bangladesh. Recently, after the ouster of Sheikh Hasina's government, we have seen coming up of Muhammad Yunus, who has taken charge as chief advisor of the interim government of Bangladesh, and now he also seems to taking Bangladesh in the clutches of China and Pakistan as such well-known adversary and rivals of India. So if we try to look at the entire area, Nepal also keeps on changing its stance, and sometimes it tilts more towards China, sometimes it tilts more toward India, based on whether the communist government or non-communist government is power as such. Similarly, Myanmar is facing another problem of its own, where it seems that there is civil war brewing up between the rebel groups, and the Myanmar's military junta as such. Myanmar's military junta also seems to be more inclined toward the China. It has a pro-China tilt as such. So overall, what I can understand that across the entire land border of India, if you try to look at the situation, it seems that except Bhutan, India has no real friend, and everyone is trying to play the China card to basically, what you can say, reduce the influence of India in their country as such. So elections, as you have discussed, have already been announced. India needs to be now extra careful how it engages and deal with the Bangladeshi government as such. Now we know that as far as the Bangladesh is concerned, it seems that India was completely outwitted by US, because if you try to understand, US has increased its foothold in Bangladesh, and also US has been trying to use the Bangladeshi government and military to fulfill its own objective in Myanmar, where it tried to create a kind of front against the Myanmar's military junta as such. So this is something that also a geopolitical reality we have taken into account. Now, many times question is asked that why, if India has liberated Bangladesh, many people of Bangladesh, citizens of Bangladesh, have taken anti-India stance and have turned against India. Now, in this context, many experts argue that many Bangladeshis get infuriated by this particular this statement, where India claims that it has liberated them almost single-handedly in 1971. Now, when interview was done in Bangladesh, it seemed that many of the people think that by having this kind of ideology, this kind of approach, it seems that they are ignoring the effort put by Bangladesh's own self-styled revolutionary guerrilla army that was referred as Mukti Bahini. Mukti Bahini soldiers lost almost 300,000 lives, or 300,000 soldiers we can say were killed when they were fighting against the Rajakars and the Pakistani military as such. So when India only takes the claim of liberating them, it seems that it infuriates most of Bangladeshis, because they also want to explain and they also want to portray that Mukti Bahini also has played a very important role there. Second, also many of the experts claim from Bangladesh, also in political circle, if you look, you will see that they say that India dismembered Pakistan not only as an altruistic perspective or not only for the altruistic purpose to liberate Bangladesh, but has its own geopolitical interest, but no one talks about it. So this is why many people have taken anti-Indian stance, or they seem also too much what you can call as involvement of India in the internal politics of Bangladesh. Now, other thing that we have to understand, that Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who is considered as the father of independence Bangladesh, he was the one who spearheaded the Bangladeshi liberation movement. But at the same time, many Bangladeshi experts and scholars argue that India has ignored the role played by the military general of Bangladesh that time, that is Ziaur Rahman as such. Now, it was Ziaur Rahman who has declared independence and has led or declared the formation of the provisional government of Bangladesh on 27th March 1971. And in that time, when the war was being fought, when Bangladesh was being liberated from the clutches of Pakistan, that time Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was interned, was in jail in the West Pakistan as such. So that is why he obviously has been the political head of the movement, but if we talk about the fighting, that was done by Sheikh Ziaur Rahman. Many Bangladeshis also want to what you can call as underline his significance and his importance, and also the major general who has spearheaded the liberation movement at that time. Now, also we have to understand that when Sheikh Hasina's government was ousted from power, after a few months, we have seen many protesters, students largely, they have climbed up, as you can see from the image here, on the statue of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and also started to dismember it, has destroyed it. Not only that, even the original residence of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and his family was attacked and was burned. So kind of arson we have seen there as well. So many times people in India do not understand that how Bangladeshi people are trying to basically erase the memory of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and are trying to damage any what you can call a symbol associated with him. The reason behind this can be understood from the fact that after Sheikh Mujibur Rahman came into power, many Bangladeshi alleges that his regime has involved itself in an extreme level of corruption since 1973, that is 2 years after the liberation. And it is because of this corruption, there was large scale discontentment among the people, and also there was a distrust between army and the political government as such. And this has led to his tragic assassination in 1975. So this is also one point that is generally missed or is missing from general discourse as such. Besides, it is naive of India to expect Bangladesh to be indebted forever. For example, let us suppose that even many Bangladeshis, if they believe that India has actually helped them and has helped in liberation of Bangladesh, has helped in creation of a separate country or nation of Bangladesh, then obviously so many years have passed and it seems that Bangladesh do not want to remain indebted to India forever as such, and that is why they are prioritizing their domestic problems, domestic policies and politics at the forefront. And this is one reason why we can see a anti-Hasina protest being launched in the month of July following her ouster in the month of August. We also have to understand that though obviously it cannot be denied that India had played a very crucial role, and almost we can say without the participation of Indian military forces, Bangladesh would not have been able to form a separate country, would not have been able to liberate itself from the grasp of Pakistan as such. But also we have to understand a very famous line that was said by Henry Kissinger, who was once upon a time Secretary of State of United States of America and a very well-known reputed diplomat. So he said that America has no permanent friend or enemies, only interest. Now, though he has said this line in the context of US, this line today applies to all the countries who are trying to establish some sort of relations, bilateral relationship or multilateral relationship between different countries as such. So we cannot say that any country will have permanent friend or permanent enemy. For in the past, if India was a friend of Bangladesh, it does not mean that in the future also Bangladesh would ensure that it remains so. And the case in point is of Vietnam. During the Vietnam War, we have seen that Vietnam was getting huge support from China. China was best friend of Vietnam, you can say North Vietnam at least at that time. And after this, if you try to understand, after the war ended, if you look at the present scenario, Vietnam is totally pro-US in nature. It is heavily dependent upon and is a strong ally of United States in the Asia Pacific region. And Vietnam today has a relationship of animosity, we can say, with China as such, because China claims a large part of exclusive economic zone and the sea territory or oceanic territory of Vietnam as such. So we can see that few decades back, China and Vietnam were best friends while US was an enemy. Today, US and Vietnam are best friend, China is an enemy. So this is something that is not applicable to this particular scenario. It applies all across world, including India itself. Now we have seen that the anti-Hasina protest that erupted in Bangladesh soon turned into anti-India protest. And the example of this we can see from the fact that after the removal of Sheikh Hasina from power, when she fled to India, took refuge in India, political asylum in India, that time we have seen that many of the protesters then turned their gaze and anger toward the Awami League supporters or the members who Awami League is the party that was headed by Sheikh Hasina, and in many cases the minority groups living in Pakistan, living in Bangladesh were supporter of Sheikh Hasina. So that is when we have seen a large scale attack and this what you can call as confrontation breaking out between the Islamist group and the minorities such as Hindus specifically. So also we have to understand here that the reason behind the anti-Sheikh Hasina protest is not largely because of the pro-India tilt that she has in her policy. It is also because how she run the country before. For example, many countries across the world have accused that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has rigged the election in her favor, and also in that time India has supported her. We did not retract our position as such. This has created a anti-India feeling among the opposition party members as well as the opposition people, public citizens of Pakistan, Bangladesh as such. Second, why India was supporting Sheikh Hasina? It is simply to do with the political ideology as such. As far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, though she might have engaged in what you can call as activity which was not supported by the people of Bangladesh, she definitely had secular and pro-India stance and such. And the opposition party generally have taken anti-Indianism, and also they were largely influenced by Islamist forces that create another set of challenge for the internal security of India. So obviously, if India had to choose, it chose the secular and pro-India forces that was represented by the Sheikh Hasina and her party and her regime in Bangladesh as such. Now, Hasina government's kowtowing to PM Modi and alleged one-side deal with the Adanis added fuel to the fire, and this also we can understand as the reason why protesters turned anti-India as well. Now, also we have to look at the folly of Sheikh Hasina, that why you have a large-scale protest erupting against a government which has control and which has run over Bangladesh for many decades. So it has to do with the increasing repression that Bangladeshi people had faced in her last years of ruling. For example, many people claim that there have been mysterious disappearance of dissenters. Dissenter means those people who did not agree with her policy or did not agree with the way how she was running the country. The internment of countless opposition supporters, whoever tried to present a voice of opposition against her policy, they were put in jail as such, and brutal police firings in the special torture chamber that also is said to have been devised by her government largely to target the dissenters and the opposition members as such. Also, we have to understand she had made a remark and has termed all the protesters who were protesting against her government as Rajakar. Rajakar is a very derogatory term that was used in Bangladesh to represent those forces who wanted to remain part of Pakistan, who did not want to create a separate nation of Bangladesh as such. So basically, we can say that she has termed all her opposition what you can call it, anyone who was opposing her as anti-national itself. That is what we can understand how she has basically portrayed everything. Now, India should have taken up track 2 dialogue, because when the situation began to deteriorate in Bangladesh, many experts claim that India had kept on engaging only with her government. They did not try to attempt to engage with the other political parties as such or members as such. So that is where track 2 dialogue come into picture. This is kind of background diplomacy or backroom diplomacy, where you do not have direct government to government contact, government to government interaction, but you have some level of interaction by the what you can call as eminent personalities or by retired diplomats and all that. So that is something where also India had faltered or did not maybe this realize that Sheikh Hasina would soon leave country and the government would fall as such. Now, as far as the options for India is concerned, now we know that after coming of Muhammad Yunus, and when he has taken the charge of chief advisor to the interim government of Bangladesh, each of his actions seems to be anti-India nature, because he is showing a pro-China and pro-Pakistan tilt. And this is not only in one sphere like economy, but also in the defense spheres. He have made a lot of remarks which has raised eyebrow in New Delhi as such. For example, his remark of referring North Indian state as Northeast Indian state as landlocked region. His remark of referring Bangladesh as a sole guardian of Bay of Bengal, it has not gone it did not go down well with the New Delhi and the this what you can call as government as such. So due to this, we have seen a lot of tit for tat response between India and Bangladesh as such. But also we have to understand that hurting Bangladesh economically would alienate the voters who will actually decide the fate of country next April. And that is why the particular, if talk about the particular article, in this article, the expert argue that India must reach out to the Awami League's opposition to soften their anger. Now, when we talk about the Awami League opposition, the Bangladesh throughout the entire history has been run by two major parties. One was Awami League led by Sheikh Hasina, other is Bangladesh Nationalist Party led by Khalida Zia. Now we can see that Khalida Zia herself, though she is at the forefront of the party, also her son is currently the de facto leader of the party, as we can see from the practical point of view. So obviously now Awami League party has been disbanded. That means all the supporters of Awami League would flock to vote for some other alternative parties as such. Now in this case, India will have to look at the political reality unfolding in the Bangladesh. Now obviously BNP has Islamist sympathies, but also in the present context it seems that it is leaning toward a centrist view, and also it is most mature party as of now after the removal of Awami League as such. It may now expand its reach to woo committed Awami League voters, because Awami League party has been disbanded. That means voters would vote for some other party and BNP would try to woo them. And one way how they can woo them is by shedding its strong Islamist sympathies, becoming more centrist and mature in nature, and then they will fundamentally also might stand against the Islamic right group or right wing that has developed in Bangladesh. So that is why engagement with BNP becomes a necessity in this scenario. Also, if we talk about the anti-India Islamic parties, in the entire history of Bangladesh, they have never been able to sweep the polls, that means get the majority. They have either supported one or other party as such, and even now the entire Islamist party themselves are divided into multiple groups. For example, they are represented by Jamaat-e-Islami, Bangladesh Khilafat Majlis, Hafazat-e-Islam, Islami Okia Jyote Tariqat, and the Muslim League such. Second, as propped up by Muhammad Yunus, largely by weaving the support he enjoys among the student community of Bangladesh, he has supported a party called as Jatiyo Nagrik Party. But Jatiyo Nagrik Party does not have any kind of political history as such, and this party did not enjoy a formidable mass base among the Bangladeshi population. So it's very unlikely that this party may win the next poll or election. And that is why it is time for India to look beyond the Awami League, because no matter how hard the truth is, whether how hard it is to accept the situation and the reality of Bangladesh is that Awami League is out of power and it is not going to contest the elections as such. So it is time to project a fresh positive image to Bangladeshi voters and work on the best option that is available to us. That is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with the flash friends, and subscribe to the channel for more such content. Thank you very much.